So what have we all learned over the last couple of days? Well, if you want to stage a terrorist attack in Russia, don't do it. It's just not worth it. Because you know what they're going to do to you? They are going to F you up. You may have seen over the weekend there was a terrorist attack in Russia. 4 armed men stormed an auditorium where there was some sort of music concert happening. They killed 137 people and injured another 180 people. It was Russia's largest and most damaging terrorist attack in years. It was horrible. Many children died as well. Absolutely terrible. ISIS have taken responsibility. ISIS, very 2015. We haven't heard about them in a while. It's all been about Hamas lately. And not only ISIS, but a sect of ISIS called ISIS-K, which is this even more extreme, even more barbaric version of ISIS. The suspects are in their 20s and 30s. They're believed to be from Tajikistan, which is a place kind of next to Afghanistan. But what I want to talk about today is how impressed I am at the way the Russian authorities have dealt with this. I think all of us Western nations could learn a thing or two from the way that they deal with their terrorists and their criminals. So we all know that Russia is relentless. They don't take any prisoners. You don't want to go to Russia and commit a crime because you're done. Same with these 4 terrorists. Oh my gosh. Okay, so they would have been better off just killing themselves after the incident. When the Russian authorities got their hands on them, boy, oh boy. So we saw footage of the 4 of them in the stands in the courthouse, ready to go to trial. I'm not sure what kind of justice system they've got in Russia, but I doubt it's very democratic. One of them had their ear cut off by Russian authorities. He was sitting in the stand with a bandaged up head and gauze over his ear because it was literally cut off. There's also been footage released of this horrendous experience. The guy had his ear cut off and then they forced him to eat it. Barbaric. And no, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I believe justice should be served in this way. It's the only way to disincentivize these terrorists. The other guy, his entire face was swollen. It was black and blue. He was clearly bashed to a pulp. I heard another guy had his genitals electrocuted. There's actual footage of that. And then another guy came in on a stretcher. He was half dead, bandaged up to the hilt. I mean, I shouldn't be lighthearted about this, but these guys are alleged terrorists. They went in, they killed 137 people. They should be dealt with to the full extent of the law. And in Russia, that's the law. And it got me thinking, we would never do that in the West. The way that we care for criminals and for terrorists in the West, in America, in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, the Russians would laugh at us. Do you remember when President Biden was talking about that poor girl, Laken Riley? She was murdered by an immigrant. She was only 22 years old. Horrible, horrible circumstances. And then he apologized for calling the accused an immigrant. He apologized to an accused murderer. No mention of this poor girl who was brutally murdered, yet he apologizes to the accused for daring to call him an illegal immigrant. In what world does this happen? Yes, in the West, where we supposedly put the needs and the feelings of accused criminals and convicted criminals above innocent people. We're one step away from giving convicted criminals hotel rooms with cable TV and a minibar. Pathetic snowflakes we have turned into in the West. I mean, same within Australia. Remember just recently here in Australia when those 2 men, Luke Davis and Jesse Baird, were allegedly brutally murdered by that police officer. The police commissioner thanked the accused for leading detectives to the bodies. Thanked him. The guy had just allegedly committed a heinous crime, and he's the top cop in the state thanking him. And both the US and Australia do it with illegal immigrants. You know, in America, they've just opened the borders. Anyone can come through, putting them up in hotel rooms. In Australia, the judges are giving them preferential treatment, letting them out time and time again, even though they keep committing the same crimes over and over, where innocent victims are forced to pay the price and the rest of us hardworking people are scared to go for a walk at night because there are undocumented people walking the streets because the judges are too scared of being called racist bigots to put them where they belong until they can prove their identity. All of this stuff would never happen in Russia. In Russia, same with some other countries around the world, like Indonesia, Singapore, if you're caught doing something wrong, if you're caught breaking the law, we've seen it time and time again in Indonesia with the drug smuggling, straight away, death penalty. Same with Singapore, if you spit out gum on the street, you literally get arrested. This is the kind of policing that needs to happen, not to exist in a country. And the funniest part about this Russia thing is that civil liberty groups have come out and they've condemned Russia's treatment of the terrorists. Well, of course they have. One of those groups is called Team Against Torture. It's a prominent group that advocates against police brutality. They said in a statement that the culprits must face stern punishment, but savagery should not be the answer to savagery. Well, I think you'll find with people like ISIS that actually savagery is the answer to savagery. It's the only thing that would scare them enough to not commit these brutal acts. This group also said the value of any testimony obtained by torture was critically low, and if governments allow for torture of terrorism suspects, it may allow unlawful violence towards other citizens too. I think that's a complete cop-out, and it's a way of trying to justify these horrendous acts by these terrorists. We all know that the Russian regime is brutal, and that's what you kind of have to just acknowledge and accept when you're in that country. And these terrorists didn't accept that, and now they're paying the price for that. The Russian politicians have come out in support of the actions. The Russian Prime Minister said that the investigation is still ongoing, but he vowed that the perpetrators will be punished. They do not deserve mercy. Chilling stuff. And Dmitry Medvedev, who was Russia's president from 2008 to 2012, said that they have been caught. Kudos to all who are chasing them. Should they be killed? They should, and it will happen. But it is more important to kill everyone involved, everyone. Those who paid, those who sympathized, those who helped, kill them all. Wow. These guys do not muck around. Can you imagine someone like President Biden or Prime Minister Anthony Albanese saying that? The leaders of the West are so scared of seeming like they're not nice, or they're bullies, or they're bigots, or they're racist, that they will not say anything that could possibly offend anyone, even if these people have gone and shot up a bunch of innocent people. They are just so weak and limp-wristed, and the PC brigade has overtaken every aspect of our society in the West. And we seriously need to learn a little bit of strength from countries like Russia or from China, countries that don't put up with this BS. And we shouldn't put up with it, because ISIS and Hamas and every extremist Islamic organization that is targeting us are going to stop at nothing. I don't think people understand that they don't want a piece of land. They don't want money. They're driven by a higher power. They want to completely strip every Western nation, every country around the world, in fact, of Christianity, of Judaism, of every religion and every worldview that doesn't align with Islam. The official statement from ISIS after this attack said this was an attack on Christians. They didn't say it was an attack on Russia, on the West. They said on Christians. Just like October 7 was an attack on Jews. For them, this is all religious. This is all about belief. And that is exactly why they're going to stop at nothing, because they so deeply believe, and it's been taught to them and indoctrinated into them, that they need to go out and fight for the proliferation of Islam around the world. That is what they've been called to do. And they will not hesitate to put themselves in harm's way to do that. And this is exactly why there can be no negotiation, no compromise. They're not taught to accept compromise. It is all or nothing for them. And that's why this push today for a ceasefire in the Middle East, in Gaza, is complete bullshit. You cannot negotiate with these people. And I know now I'm going into the Hamas-Israel conflict, but it's all the same mentality. It's this doctrine that they read from that tells them they need to take control and push their beliefs onto everyone. It's why Palestine has rejected every single attempt at peace in Gaza. I've got a list of them here. They rejected a two-state solution in 1947. Yasser Arafat rejected cooperation with Israel. They rejected the Oslo Accords. They rejected a peace agreement at Camp David in the year 2000. They rejected a peace proposal in 2008. They rejected a US proposal of the deal of the century under Trump. They don't want to compromise. And this Western way of thinking, these peace deals that the UN keep trying to push, are never going to work. Because it's a different way of thinking. That's what they're not grasping. The West like to think that everyone wants to live harmoniously side by side. And look, that's a very lovely idea. I would love that. But when you have different people who fundamentally think different things, and one of them want to negotiate with peace, and the other one isn't interested in negotiation and will put their bodies and their lives on the line and die for what they believe in, it's not going to work.